Good afternoon and welcome to Nogaro for the opening event of the season, not just for the Clio Cups of France and Spain respectively, but also the overarching Clio Cup Series. We're back for 2023. A lot of familiar names are here in the paddock and on the grid, as you may expect, and we are very excited to see how things go at this challenging circuit, 2.2 miles in length. And as you can see, we've got lovely weather conditions for motor racing this weekend. 20 degrees Celsius on this Sunday afternoon. Of course, this event running as part of the traditional Nogaro Easter races that have long been a staple of the calendar here at this circuit and within SRO, the FFSA French Championships running here along with us here in the Clio Cup. We have points being scored this weekend in both the French and Spanish championships. So this isn't the season opener strictly for Clio Cup Europe. However, we do have a lot of the faces that you'd expect to see at the very sharp end of Clio Cup Europe when they have their season opener in Monza in just a couple of weeks' time. Chief among them, of course, is Nicolas Milan, the 15-time Clio champion. He will start on the second row of the grid. The driver on pole position, though, is another former Clio champion. That is David Pouget, and he is not only a former champion, he is also a former race winner from this time last year. In 2022, it was a winner piece for Pouget and Marc Guyot. Marc is not here, so David Pouget, who has form at this circuit, starting on pole position alongside Alex Albouy. It's going to be a very compelling first lap of the race. As I mentioned, Nicolas Milan is there in third position. He's already called his shot to me. He said, right, first lap, I'm going to come out of the Curve de l'Aviation, or the aviation corner, as it were, turn 6 of this layout. The long back straight follows that, and he says, I'm going to be leading by the time we get to turn 7. You've got that long back straight, and then, of course, you've got the almost hairpin. That is turn 7, the right-hander. And that corner is an ideal overtaking opportunity. Lots of slipstreaming to be done on the back straight as well. And Nicolas Milan reckons that is where he is going to try and make his bid for the lead in the early going. Now, he said he was going to try it on lap number 1. I'm not sure that he is telling me the truth there, because Nicolas Milan has won 15 Clio championships, not by being reckless on the first lap, but by being calculating at the wheel of his cars. And I say his cars, they are very much his cars, of course. Milan Competition running a quartet of Clios here in today's race. So hopefully we can talk you through the grid in full during this formation lap for race number 1. It's going to be 25 minutes plus 1 lap for this race, of course, around this tight and twisting and technical 2.2 mile circuit. There's little room for error here at Nogaro. Of course, there is also very little in the way of overtaking opportunities in this first sector. It's a very physical and brave overtake that is made in the first sector of this circuit, but this long back straight down towards turn 7 is probably the primary overtaking zone. So in terms of the grid, we have David Pouget on pole position alongside Alex Albouy. That is row number 1. Row 2 is Nicolas Milan and Alexandre Finkelstein on row 2. Florian Carouble and Jordi Palomeras on row 3 of the grid. Then it's Mathieu Lanpoudens in P7, and P8 alongside him is Adrian Schimpf. As you see the rest of the grid, I'll just run you down the rest of the top 10. Florian Venturi starting in 9th place, the young 22-year-old racer who has got plenty of mileage here at Nogaro, and Jeremy Bordegaray is rounding out our top 10 on this starting grid. As you can see, a strong field of 29 cars joining us here on this grid, and plenty of competitive quick drivers among that starting list. So we're anticipating a very exciting 25 minutes here at Nogaro. This is the kind of circuit that one would suggest little cars like Renault Clios are built for. It's tight, it's twisting, there are sharp braking zones for overtakes. Very technical and challenging. It certainly is one of the more stimulating circuits that we visit in the Clio Cup Series across the 2023 season. It just so happens to be our season opener for the French and Spanish championships. So as we get ready for the start of this one, keep an eye on David Pouget on the inside of the front row. He's our pole sitter. Alexandre Albuy will no doubt be trying to get a slightly better start off the outside of the front row. But Nicolas Milan, the driver who has made a career out of Clios, not just driving them, but running the Milan competition team, he is going to be very much one to watch from third on the grid. Anytime that Nicolas Milan is in a Renault Clio Cup car, it would be foolhardy to rule him out as a potential race winner. So it will be 25 minutes plus 1 lap, standing start, of course. No implications for tomorrow's grid based on this race, because we have another qualifying session on Monday morning. So effectively, there's no fear of losing positions in tomorrow's race based on what you do here. You can go full out attack if you want to. David Pouget will be certainly getting the elbows out to try and retain that lead in the early going. Of course, the first corner here is basically flat out from a standing start, so it's going to be turn 2 that will be critical. So if Alexandre Albuy can hold on to the outside going towards the first corner, then potentially he's got the inside for turn 2, and then it's a sequence of right-hand bends after that. So that could be ideal for Alexandre. The green flag has been waved, the green lights have been displayed, and we are racing for the first time in the 2023 Renault Clio Cup Series. The fields of Clio Cup France and Spain make their way towards the first corner, and it looks to me as if Alexandre Albuy has done it and got himself into the lead from the outside of the front row. And so the cars run through the first sequence of corners. This first section is so challenging. They're just going through the double Gras du Carpin at the moment. Turn 5 follows that, and now turn 6, effectively not a corner. It's flat out as they run down towards the back straight for the first time of asking. And I believe that is actually Pouget who has retained the lead. He's having to defend, though, up against, well, you know who, Nicolas Milan in those Castrol colours. He's trying to get around the outside at turn 7 on the first time of asking, and he isn't quite able to do it on that occasion. I thought that Alexandre Albuy had actually made his way up into P1, but in fact it was David Pouget who managed to get himself up there into the lead. So good going from the Frenchman. He will be racing in Clio Cup France and Clio Cup Europe in this 2023 season, but he's not scoring points for Clio Cup Europe here. The only points available are for the French and Spanish classifications this weekend. It's Jordi Palomeras who leads the Spanish order at the moment. He runs 6th on the grid. And just holding on around the outside at turn 1 there was David Pouget, but critically you saw Nicolas Milan getting very physical up against Alexandre Albuy, and we had a spinner as well. I didn't spot that in the live pictures, but one of the cars had a moment there right at the back of the order. I believe that might have been Stéphane Nevers in the 11 car, or perhaps no, Guillaume Maillot in the 99 car, I think that was, who spun at turn 2. So very first lap, second corner of the season, and already a bit of an error for the driver of the 99 car. They run down the long back straight then, adjacent to the Nogaro airfield that you can see on the left of screen. They run down here for the second time. Nicolas Milan not close enough to make a move, is he? Because while he wasn't making a challenge, we did see David Pouget there just locking up the brakes into turn 7. And there's not much runoff area, as you can see in the back of shot, afforded to drivers at turn 7. So if you're under-rotating your front wheels, you've got to be very, very careful indeed not to go straight on. David Pouget managed to get into the corner without too much trouble, though. They head past the sights now of what used to be the pit lane here at Nogaro. This is the former pit lane and pit straight that they go down now through turns 13 and 14. And that completes the lap here at Nogaro, the circuit de Paul Armagnac. As we say, it is 25 minutes plus 1 lap here. Certainly the front tyres on these cars will wear as the race goes on. Overtake there, one of the Milan competition cars losing a position. Some of the Spanish order here running in this pack at the lower half of the top 10. It's Jordi Palomeras who leads the way in the Spanish class still. He is in 6th overall. And Lani Pudenks in 7th position overall. He is 2nd in the Spanish classification at the moment, but it's that battle for first that a lot of us are keeping our eyes on at the moment, because Nicolas Milan this time certainly is on the offensive. He's gone to the outside of David Pouget, fighting to get the car slowed down in time for turn 7, holds on to the outside, still has a nose there to the quarter panel of David Pouget, but has to relent. No move made on this occasion then. It's one thing drawing alongside on that long back straight, but actually being in a position to claim the lead is going to be quite another task for Nicolas Milan. It's still Alexandre Alboui in 3rd place and Finkelstein in 4th position. So Finkelstein in the 29 car, former Rotax karter in his younger days, but also a very solid level of experience in these Clio Cup machines. Board being displayed there for the 113 car, as we see some side-by-side action into the first corner. And again, one of the Milan competition entries getting stuck in there. Can't quite see the number on my screen. The cars head out through turn 6 now. We now see the 2nd place car, Nicolas Milan, trying to close in on David Pouget. But this time not close enough to draw alongside. Oh, locking up a little bit. You can't afford to do that too many times over the course of 25 minutes. 1 or 2 lockups, yes, fine, par for the course. These Michelin tyres are fairly sturdy. However, if you continue to under-rotate any of your tyres too much over the course of 25 minutes, and that is going to start to bite back eventually. It is definitely a 4-car scrap for the lead that we've got now. It looked early on as if Pouget and Milan would maybe get away. The VIA Racing Technology team watching on there. But as the race settles into its groove, it does seem as though we've got this 4-way scrap for the lead. Certainly, Alexandre Alboui, who started in 2nd place, is going to be very keen to get back into the top 2. A podium will do him just fine in this early stage of the season, of course. But if he can get himself 42 points for 2nd place, or indeed 50 for the win, he won't argue. All of the 4 drivers in the top 4 of this race, incidentally, are scoring points in the French Championship. So this isn't just a battle for position, it's a battle for Clio Cup Series France points. And this is still the 23 car of Jordi Palomeras, that leads the way among the Spanish drivers. That's the second of the Milan competition Castrol cars, but the first of them, Nicolas Milan, up the inside there of David Pouget. Thought for a minute that Nicolas Milan had done enough, but David Pouget managed to get the power down on the outside of turn 7, just about covered off the threat from the Castrol liveried car. It's the second Castrol liveried car in the back of shot that I've been talking about, Jordi Palmeiras. He is 6th position and leading the Clio Cup España order at the moment. But for now, all eyes on this four-way battle for the lead. I had a fairly long chat with Nicolas Milan earlier on, and he wasn't giving away any of his secrets. He said that sometimes you have to be smooth in this car, sometimes you have to be aggressive. When I asked him whether it was aggression or smoothness that served him best in his Clio Cup title defences, he was keeping some things very much to himself. But racing drivers don't necessarily become successful by giving away every secret they have. Alexandre Alboui still very much involved with this scrap as well there, keeping a watching brief in 3rd position. He was very close to Nicolas Milan through turn 4. However, Milan has opened up a little bit of a gap now as they run down the long back straight. Now the question is there a move on here for Nicolas Milan, because he has used the slipstream very effectively to get up to the back of David Pouget? And no move made on that occasion. Meanwhile, some fighting further back. I believe that was the 31 car of Jeremy Bordegaray. Just keeping on Alejandro Schimpf, if I'm not mistaken. The top 4 come through turns 11 and 12 for what is the 6th time in this race. We should get something like 14 laps on the board, I believe, by the end of this, perhaps 15. They're lapping this circuit in the mid-143s. At least the drivers at the front of the order are. Noticeable gap back, isn't there, now between the top 4 and Florian Karubel in 5th position. I'm sure that Jordi Palmeiras in 6th place will be keen to get himself into the overall top 5, even though he's not necessarily fighting Florian Karubel for honours in the Spanish Championship. Again, reminder, if you're just tuning in, points are being scored in this race for both the French and Spanish Championship, but not all of the drivers on the grid are registered for both series. So the top Spanish registered driver at the moment is Palmeiras in 6th position. The top 4 once again run down to turn 7. And no move made, but Nicolas Milan very much making his intent clear. I think that once we get into the final 5 minutes of the race, stasis will no longer be on the agenda for Nicolas Milan. He is the kind of driver that's calculating. He'll sit there and he'll think, yes, points for 2nd place is fine, especially at this early juncture of the championship. All the wise money says that David Pouget, 95 car off there. So the 95 car has had a moment. Now that's Gaël Rostin for GPO Racing. Let's see what happened. Tried to pull it out to the outside, but locked up. As I mentioned, once you lock up on the approach to turn 7, you're going from very, very quick to quite a slow corner in short order. If you lock up too much, you risk going straight on. And thankfully, Gaël Rostin managed to just about keep the car on something like the racing surface, but was trying to make up positions and has ended up losing them. Is now registered down in 26th, I believe. In fact, make that 27th. was talking to some of the drivers in the paddock in advance of this race. I believe the most local driver we have is the man currently sat in 15th place overall. That's Fabien Julia, who lives a mere 20 kilometres from this Nogaro circuit. However, he's still sleeping in the back of his truck this weekend. I said to him, well, surely when you're 20 kilometres away, you just go back to your own bed, no? And he goes, no, I need to stay in it. I need to stay in the zone and at the racetrack. And certainly gave me every indication that Fabien is a proper racing driver. And he sits 15th overall at the moment. This is the battle for 5th place that we're watching at the moment. The tricolor striped white and green car in 5th place is Florian Kuruble. And some of the cars fanning out on the main straight there. Of course, the main straight really isn't that straight. It was never designed as a main straight. It was originally the little link between turns 2 and 3, but when they renovated the circuit just over 15 years ago, it was decided that that would be the new main straight, and thus it has been ever since. There we see Jeremy Bordegaray there in 11th place overall, another of the Milan competition cars. Not all of the Milan competition machines are in the Castrol colours, but 3 out of 4 of them are. Certainly difficult to miss them in those distinctive colours. Looks like maybe a move on for 3rd place there. Finkelstein just having a look to the inside, but no manoeuvre made on that occasion. Jordi Palomeras having to defend from Adrian Schimpf here. This is for the Spanish lead, as it were, the Clio Cup Spain lead. The car with the door mirror hanging off, the blue and silver machine, that is Adrian Schimpf. Who is investigating his opportunities. He was a successful go-karter in the mid-2010s, 6th in last year's Clio Cup Spain. Doesn't have to worry about door mirrors in go-karts, but he's lost one here in the Clios. I think actually we just saw the door mirror trim coming off there at turn 14, the last corner. Yes, indeed, the door mirror has fully broken away and made a bid for freedom. Maybe that lightness will help him go to the inside at turn 2. He does, gets it on 2 wheels, and it's a great move from Adrian Schimpf to get past Jordi Palomeras. That was a move for 6th overall. It was also a lead for a move for the lead in the Clio Cup Spain order. So that is a critical manoeuvre there from Adrian Schimpf, who has moved up to 6th place overall and now leads the Spanish contingent. Let's see if we can rally Jordi Palomeras to maybe make a retaliation. Try and get his position back. Meanwhile, just behind him, scrapping between the 111 and the 24 car. The 111 is Mathieu Lanne-Poudenx, who has run in Clios for the better part of his racing career. Did some mid-jet racing before that. Has had a few podiums in Clio Cup competition. Be looking to make a bid on the Spanish Championship this year, interestingly, even though he is a Frenchman. He is bidding for the Spanish title. 7 minutes and 40 seconds left to go here. We've got a flurry of activity on the timing screen. It's all been warning so far until now. As you can see, car 111 has been attributed a 5-second penalty. So we're just talking about Mathieu Lanne-Poudenx, and unfortunately, as soon as I start talking about him, penalties start to flash up, attributed to his car. Unfortunate. I apologise, Mathieu. So the 25 and the 29, third and fourth place, having a good scrap here. Alexandre Alboui still ahead of Finkenstein, but will that change as they run down the back straight? The slipstream very much pulling along Finkenstein, or Finkelstein, I should say, for third place. Finkelstein up the inside and gets it done. Very nice manoeuvre from Alexandre Finkelstein. He's moved up into third place. Meanwhile, the 23 car has received a 5-second penalty. I'm assuming that these are for track limits. It doesn't explicitly state that, but nor does it state any other reason for a 5-second penalty. And when it's not clear what, it usually ends up being track limits. The 23 car then, of course, is Jordi Palomeras, who just lost out on the Clio Cup Spain lead. He's just dropped down 7th overall, as we saw just over a lap ago, and now he's got a 5-second penalty. So even if he can find a way by Adrian Schimpf again, that 5-second penalty would invalidate his efforts. I don't know whether the team will tell him that. 10-second penalty has just flashed up on my screen for Jordi Palomeras. So I'm not sure exactly what he's doing to draw the ire of our stewards, but clearly he's putting a foot afoul somewhere. We've had a change for position between Finkelstein and Alboui. So Finkelstein has moved up into third position. We see in fifth place there, that's Florian Kurubel, who still has Adrian Schimpf just behind him. Schimpf, the leader in the Spanish order. Now, it seems that even though he's leading his class, as it were, Schimpf wants to try and get around the outside, and he's managed it. Does he manage to just hold on? No, not quite. He briefly had the car ahead of the number 2. Kurubel briefly down into 6th place, but Adrian Schimpf, I think, got himself onto the curbs there on the outside of turn 7. Difficult to put the traction down in a front-wheel drive car in those circumstances. And sure enough, he remains in 6th position for now. He has Jordi Palomeras just behind him, of course, but we know that Palomeras is going to get 10 seconds worth of penalties, so even though he's there physically, he is unfortunately going to drop well down the order after that 10 seconds worth of penalties is applied. But a big penalty has just flashed up on my screen now. David Pouget, the race leader, car 15, 5-second penalty added to the total time for our race leader. Now, what's the gap between Pouget and Nicolas Milan? 1.4 seconds with 3 minutes and 50 seconds. 3 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. I think there's very little hope of David Pouget holding on to that lead. It's going to take a mistake from Nicolas Milan, as rare as they are, for David Pouget to hold on to this lead. And, of course, Finkelstein and Alboui there fighting for 3rd and 4th place. They would also be within 5 seconds. They're just around 4 seconds back from David Pouget at the moment, so this will not only cost David the win, it will cost him a place on the podium as things stand. If he gets the hammer down with 3 minutes and 5 seconds left to go, there's a chance that Finkelstein and Alboui could be more than 5 seconds back by the end of this race. Finkelstein and Alboui, perhaps they don't know it, but they would be best served now to not fight, but work together to try and stay within 5 seconds of David Pouget. Here we see a replay of, a mighty lock-up there. And very, very nearly contact for Sergio Casalins. But he just about managed to get the car stopped and critically not collect everybody else, but that was hair-raising. And look at this in the mid-pack, lots going on. Contact sends the 24 car into a spin. Aurélien René being sent into a spin there, and critically the offending party, Lannepudin, has managed to get ahead of him. Now that is not going to be welcomed in race control, I'm sure of that. Push to pass is always questionable, and of course now we've got a situation where they've opened the door to their competition. There's also clearly some bodywork rubbing. Let's take a look at this again. Lannepudin had the inside line. Clearly thought he had right to the corner. In fact, that's Alejandro Schimpf. My apologies. That's the 199 car of Alejandro Schimpf, who has put the number 23 car, rather the number 24 car, into a spin there and has now damaged his own machine. Meanwhile, Adrian Schimpf in the 113 car has made his way up into 5th position. So while his brother Alejandro has moved up into 10th place with a little bit of contact, or moved up into 9th place, I should say, with a little bit of contact, Adrian Schimpf has moved up into 5th place. Florian Carubel now having to fight off Jordi Palmeiras. Of course, Palmeiras with 10 seconds worth of penalties, so whether Florian realizes it or not, there could be an argument made for simply allowing the 23 car, the Milan competition entry of Jordi Palmeiras through. Someone who is going to let a Milan competition car through, whether he likes it or not, is David Pouget. We've got 5 seconds left on the clock, so this is the penultimate lap of the race. I remind you, if you're just tuning in, that David Pouget was recently given a penalty, 5 seconds, I believe, for track limits. Oh, sounded like there was something going on there in 3rd place. We heard some tyres squealing away. No change in the order, though. It's still Finkelstein there in 3rd place. But David Pouget, with a 5-second penalty to be applied after this race, has just a 1.8-second lead over Nicolas Milan. So as we start the final lap, this time by, Nicolas Milan will be driving to victory. Now the question is, what will the gap be this time, starting the final lap between Pouget and Finkelstein? Because Finkelstein was 4.3 seconds. He is still 4.3 seconds back from the lead. However, the 25 car, that's Alexandre Alboui, has fallen back to just over 5 seconds away from the lead. And Finkelstein has also gotten a 5-second penalty. That's just flashed up on my screen, the 29 car. It's on your screen now too. Alex Finkelstein has also gotten a 5-second penalty. So what that should do is a sure 3rd place, or rather a sure 2nd place for David Pouget, despite his penalty. The timing screen is going to perform quite the shuffle at the end of this race. We've also had a 15-second penalty now applied to Jordi Palmeiras. So Jordi Palmeiras, who was leading the Spanish order, with 15 seconds worth of penalties applied, I think he's going to fall out of the top 15 potentially. So for David Pouget, at least on the road, it's going to be he who takes the checkered flag first. But it's the man behind him, the 15-time Clio champion, Nicolas Milan, that will, once the timing screen has collected up all of those penalties and applied them, it will be Nicolas Milan who takes the win. The 15 car flashes the headlights. David Pouget crosses the line and claims the win, at least on the road. But my understanding is he's got a 5-second penalty. Nicolas Milan crosses the line in second place on the road. I'm just waiting to see these penalties applied. The rest of the field comes through. Finkelstein listed as third, but we know he got a penalty. Alexandre Alboui rounds out the top 4. And rounding out the top 5 is Adrian Schimpf, who will also claim the Spanish order. So 5th place finisher Adrian Schimpf will be the winner within Clio Cup Spain in this dual national race. Now, the graphic saying there that Pouget took the win. However, my understanding is he got a 5-second penalty. So perhaps I was mistaken about that, but my understanding was a penalty for Pouget. My apologies if that's not the case. Certainly Pouget flashed the headlights like a race winner. And now it's confirmed. Okay, so as I thought I read, David Pouget has now had a penalty applied to him. And that has provisionally dropped him down to 4th place. However, Finkelstein also got a penalty. So I think Pouget will ultimately be in 3rd place. Nicolas Milan, though, is our race winner, as I thought. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me momentarily, but no, Nicolas Milan now confirmed as our winner in this race. So that Castrol car, the Milan competition machine, Nicolas Milan at the wheel, is our race winner. Alexandre Alboui is now confirmed in 2nd place, as Alex Finkelstein has been dropped to 4th. So the penalties are starting to filter through on the timing screen. But I don't pity our race officials, because there were a lot of penalties flashing up on your screen, flashing up on the timing screens here in the commentary booth, all throughout that race. I believe pretty much all for track limits. And is this the news being broken to Finkelstein? Yes, it is. So Alex Finkelstein there now just being explained. Or rather, his team just explaining to him, hey, man, sorry, but you were given a 5-second penalty. You may have finished 2nd on the road, but the timing screen now says you're 4th. And even when he doesn't win the race on track, even when he's not the first man across the line, Nicolas Milan has taken the first win of the 2023 Clio Cup Series, the first win of the Clio Cup France in 2023. The 5-second penalty for David Pouget has left him in 3rd position after Alex Finkelstein has also received one. Alexandre Alboui then ultimately finishes exactly where he started, in 2nd place. As we mentioned, Adrian Schimpf in 5th position in that 113 car. In 6th place, Florian Karubel in 6th position. In 7th place, a driver registered for both the French and Spanish orders. That's Border-Garay, Jeremy Border-Garay. In 7th position, I believe he wins the subclass as well. There is confirmation of that top 8. Alejandro Schimpf rounding out the top 8. Despite that little bit of contact we saw between himself and Lampoudin, which I'm sure will be investigated at some point into the evening. Keep an eye on the cliocup.fr website for confirmation of the final order. But for now, at least, Alejandro Schimpf sits there in 8th place ahead of Lana Poudin, who he helped into a sideways moment at turn 2. Florian Venturi in 10th place, Lionel Vigier in 11th, Michael Carri in 12th position, Cedric Delcroix in 13th, Fabien Julia. He said he wanted a top 15 here at his local circuit, and he has achieved that in 14th place ahead of Laurent Zeus. And just running through the rest of the order here, good to see that a majority of our drivers did get to the finish. Lydia Semperi there in 26th place, the female racer from Spain. Great story behind her racing career. She was a karter, and she was actually racing in go-karts with absolutely no sound. She is deaf, and until recently she could not run with her hearing implants in the helmet. She now has a specially adapted helmet that allows her to run her hearing implants, which I'm sure is a massive benefit to her driving, and certainly one of the most inspiring and interesting stories in the Clio Cup Series paddocks. I say paddocks with a plural because, of course, there are so many championships under this umbrella. We've started the Clio Cup Spain and Clio Cup France seasons here today. Let's take a look at some highlights. So the first race of the season in the Clio Cup Series, the first race for Clio Cup France and Clio Cup Spain. And it was a very, very good start for the man that led most of this race. In fact, all of this race. The driver of the 15, David Pouget, with an early lead, and Nicolas Melin moved up into 2nd place at the expense of Alexandre Alboui. We had a spinner further back in the pack. That was Guillaume Mayo in the 99 car. Managed to get his red and black machine going again. This long back straight down towards turn 7 was often the overtaking opportunity and the easiest place to make errors for our drivers. Largely, everyone managed to keep themselves out of trouble in this race, however. Nicolas Melin certainly made things difficult for David Pouget as the race wore on. We saw several instances of Melin trying to find his way past Pouget. However, at least on track, he never achieved it. He went to the outside. I believe this was lap 4 of the race. Tried to go around the outside. Momentarily was alongside Pouget, but could not hold on around the outside of the corner. David Pouget made sure that he held on to the lead, and after a few authoritative defensive moves, Pouget set about building a lead. At least we thought it was a lead he would keep, but more on that in a few minutes. The top 4 broke away from the rest of the field. It was very much a 4-way battle for the lead as we approached the mid-distance in this race. In 3rd place there, it was Alexandre Alboui who started on that front row. He would have to worry, though, about the car behind him. That was Finkelstein in the 29. Some good scrapping further back in the order as the cars segmented into packs. That's the 158 car of Florian Venturi there, who we see leading his pack. That was the story towards the end of this race. David Pouget had built a big lead over Nicolas Melin, but then the timing screen said 5-second penalty for David Pouget. We understand it was for track limits, and so David Pouget came around the last 2 corners, flashing the headlights. He thought he was victorious. However, the timing screen told a different story. 5-second penalty applied, and Nicolas Melin, the 15-time champion, takes the first Clio Cup Series win of 2023. So it's going to be an awkward, potentially slightly subdued podium, I believe, for these drivers in the Clio Cup Series. So when we do see these drivers up onto the podium, Nicolas Milan sure will be happy with his results, but I think he's also going to fully understand David Pouget's feelings. Nicolas has been racing these Clios for a long time. He's been racing here at Nogaro for a very long time as well. 1999, we were sat there working it out this morning. 1999 was the first time he raced here at the Circuit Paul Armagnac, back when they ran that old pit lane, before they relocated it to the modern building you see on screen today. So he's got plenty of experience here. He's had every experience you could possibly have at the wheel of a race car in single-make competition. Our local MC is readying the spectators to arrive, or to welcome the arriving top three here. And we will soon see the drivers head up onto the podium. Of course, we will welcome David Pouget up for third position. And here we are. David Pouget now being welcomed up to third place on the podium. And he does look more than a little dejected with his day's work. Alexandre Alboui will take second position. And well, Nicolas Milan once again found himself heading to the top step. He looks quite tired. Reminder, we are into the 20s here, even though we're still in early April. We're well into the 20s this afternoon as the national anthem plays. And so there we have it, the podium ceremony. And I'd say a slightly worn out and perhaps in some instances slightly dejected podium. Some of these drivers will feel aggrieved, particularly David Pouget, who crossed the line in the lead. He's received that third place trophy after his 5-second penalty. Alboui has received his second place trophy, and Nicolas Milan don't look so surprised to receive a first place Clio Cup trophy. Nicolas, we know you've done it a few times before. The Castrol branded driver will celebrate a victory once again, as will his Milan competition team. And Nicolas Milan and the Milan competition team receive the first place team trophy as well. So success for Nicolas Milan and Milan competition. Controversy perhaps with those time penalties for David Pouget, but an exciting start to our Clio Cup Series. Championship will be back here again for race 2 of the season tomorrow in the Clio Cup Series. The Clio Cup France and Clio Cup Spain have completed their first race, and it's Milan on top.